Hey, welcome to the Happy Rant podcast. I am Ted Cluck, joined as always in studio by my good friends and my partners in radio, Barnabas Piper and Ronald J. Martin. Boys, we have a new business partnership, and we're starting with that because that is the most important thing right now. Regardless of what anybody tells you about relationships or life or politics, really the only thing that matters is business. And that's why I'm starting with it, because we have a new relationship, Piper, and I want you to tell the audience about who we formed an alliance with in the business world.
Yeah, I appreciated how you set that up, because everybody knows that when you're in a new relationship, it's like the first thing out of your mouth. It's always you just can't help but tell people about it. And since this is a new one, we're just right up front with it. Our new partner, our new relationship is with the Christian Standard Bible. So if you go to csbible.com, you can check them out. It is a relatively new translation that maybe just in the last 4 or 5 years has come out. And it's one that I've been using basically that whole time, and I love it. So it's an effort to be accurate to the original languages while being readable. So, if you know anything about Bible translation, you know that the more accurate it gets to the original languages, sometimes the English gets a little stilted and it doesn't read real smoothly. Or if you go more readable, you often lose some of the nuances from Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, etc. So for those of you who care nothing about that, it's a really readable, accurate Bible. For those of you who care a lot about that, it's a really accurate, readable Bible. And they actually have a great deal going on for the month of February. So when this episode releases, it'll be almost February. If you go to lifeway.com, because the CSB is published out of Lifeway, and then you can get any CSB Bible edition, any single CSB Bible, so one of their nicest study Bibles with the goat skin and whatever, or just like your more basic editions. You can get it for 40% off using the code CSBFEB2021. And we'll share this on social media. I'll put it in the show notes because that's a lot to remember. But again, lifeway.com, 40% off any edition. CSBFEB2021 is the coupon code. And I will encourage anybody to check out their Spurgeon Study Bible.
Dude, that's a great Bible.
Yeah, it's one that I'm using right now. And I don't even think it's fair to call it a study Bible. It's more like a read-along where you read the full scripture text, and then there's just notes from Spurgeon's sermons on certain passages that open it up. And that's what I'm using right now. I jumped back into it at the beginning of the year, and I love it. So again, CSB, you're lifeway.com. You can get any CSB edition for 40% off using the code CSBFEB, as in February 2021, or go to csbible.com to check it out, learn more. I love these Bibles. I think they'll come in. I think they'll be a great addition to anybody who's kind of tired or looking for a change or whatever.
Excellent. Pipe, well said. I've been using that Spurgeon Study Bible for a couple of years, since I think we partnered with them on a live show way back when that was happening. And love that Bible. Got one for my mom for Christmas this year. It's a great one. So shout out the good people at the CSB and Lifeway. All right, boys. We have limited time this morning because we're busy people and we're very important people. However, we're going to kind of riff today on this meme, how it started, how it's going. And we got a few listener suggested topics, some things that they wanted us to vamp about in light of that. So let's get it kicked off. All right. How we started, how it's going. Let's start with how we met. And all three of us probably have different recollections about this. So how we started, how it's going. Let's start with how we met. Ronald, I'm going to let you kick us off, okay? Because you've been quiet because it's been kind of the me and Pipe show because of the business. But I'm going to let you kick us off on this one, all right?
Okay, thanks, baby. I appreciate the support. Man,
yeah, baby, you always get a little thin when I frame
special.
it that way, don't you? It sort of impinges on the autonomy and the kind of three of us being equal thing. I didn't mean it that way, okay?
Yeah, no, I didn't take it that way. I think I took more offense at when you and Pipe do business as if I'm not part of the business.
Well, you are part of the business.
Yeah,
Why
but
didn't
that's not how you just said it.
I
You know,
didn't
you
mean it
said,
that way either. It's not like Pipe and I have an office that we go to in suits every day. And
baby,
like, we
I'm
make a
just
deal.
going off of your words. I'm just going off of your words.
Well, words matter,
No, but
don't
seriously,
they? And how
they
we
do
say
matter.
things.
They do matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so my rec, in all seriousness, because obviously
Yeah.
I'm just joking, but in all rec, gosh, I remember. So what I remember is this, boys. I remember there being this pod called the Happy Rant, and I remember kind of seeing Pipe sitting awkwardly on a couch somewhere, and the always awkward Stephen Altrogi somewhere else, and you guys like vamping out on this new pod. And I think I saw an initial clip of it for about 41 seconds, and that was all I ever saw of it.
Dude,
And
right? 'Cause
then-
it
That was
a
our
video
average
thing.
view for those in general, actually. It was
41
about
seconds?
Yeah.
When it was you and Trogs Pipe, it was a video thing, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if those exist anywhere. Steven might have killed them all out of
It
embarrassment.
was more
but-
of a vlog. It was almost vloggy.
Yeah, it all went.
Wasn't it?
It all went up on YouTube, and we were using like laptop cameras, and I don't even think we were using any sort of external microphone. So it was just talking into a laptop with that tinny sound, and then I was camped out in like this sage green love seat in my apartment living room, and Steven was, I don't know, he was probably at his version of a home office or something like that. So yeah, it wasn't real high production quality.
Yeah, and I remember my first thought was when I saw that 41-second clip, I just thought, why are they doing it? Because it reminded me of our reformatory days, which was like, why are they making a video out of this just to record
Dude,
it?
right.
Yeah, and I remember just thinking like, oh man, but God bless them. It sounds interesting, like what they're diving into. And then I remember
Man,
at some point.
Can I jump in here real quick and just say there's nothing more encouraging than hearing somebody go, "Oh, God bless them."
Right.
That really lifts my spirits.
Literally
Thank
the
you.
most condescending thing.
Well, it was like this. It was God bless him in the sense that, like, gosh, man, I've lived that. I don't ever want to do it again. It was that kind of God bless him. It had nothing to do with the quality of the program. It was just, oh man, I just hate that format so much, And then obviously at some point I had heard, Big T, that you got added to the mix. Obviously since I wasn't a part of it at the time, I don't remember how far in that was that you dived in. Maybe a couple of eps or maybe a couple of months.
Pipe, how far in was it? It was only a handful of eps, and by that time you guys were off video. Because I think one of my hard no's was like no video.
My recollection is that so we maybe did 3 to 5 videos, not very many. And, we had a very small number of people who enjoyed it, and a couple of them reached out and they said, you guys really ought to be doing this as a podcast. Because at that point, podcasts were a thing, but they were not a thing that everybody and their cousin was doing about, having celiac disease or whatever. They were just, it was really like there was, what's the guy's name? Mark, the comedian who does the long form interviews. There was like the Nerdist. There was all these sort of like early adopter long form things, and then there was like all the
Bill
NPR
Simmons.
stuff. Yeah. And then there was like sermons, and so nobody was doing. Not nobody. Nobody in the Christian space was doing what we were trying to do. So we moved to podcast, and I thought that the way that it went, at least the way that it went on our side, was Steven said, "What do you think about moving to podcast?" I said, "Great. I don't like video." And he said, I think it would work better with 3 people. I know this guy named Ted. I'll reach out to him, which I have no idea how he knew you or if he knew you or if that was a Stevenism of, hey, I know of a guy named Ted.
Right. I think it was a Stevenism in the sense that like we had never met, and still to this day, like Trogs and I have never been in the same room together. Like we've never shared space in that
Me
way.
either. We did a podcast with him for like 3 years, and I've
literally
never seen him in person.
Yeah, so
I wonder if he meant Ted Cluck when he said Ted. Maybe when he said Ted,
he probably
he had some other Ted. Right? There was some other Ted in mind, and he accidentally just like texted, emailed the wrong Ted, and then here we are. It's all history.
I love it. Yeah, serendipitous, baby. That's 100% Pipe. So I knew Trogs because remember Trogs was trying to like get his website going, and I think we were both kind of freelancing for him on the level of like he would ask me to write stuff and I'd be like, I don't write anything for free anymore. And he'd be like, well, I can't pay you exactly. And I would literally be like, just send me this item that I want. So I'd be like, I want the new whatever record, and I'll do the article if you send it to me. So we had this weird relationship.
You had a barter system for writing?
We had a barter system. Like I'll write your thing if you send me some stuff. And it was awkward. And it's funny, it's been so long, like I only have like vague recollections of this, but I remember one of my other stipulations with Trogs was you don't get to edit anything that I write. So like whatever I send you, it goes in that way, which is sort of the cost of doing business. Like if you're not going to pay me, then you don't get to like touch my stuff.
I mean, at that point, he's like, I thought I was trying to reach out to Ted Decker.
Exactly, dude. Ted Decker would be so much nicer to work with than this a-hole, you know.
And there's nothing I can do now.
Exactly. I'm locked in. Yeah, I'm locked in. So that's how it started. And I remember those first eps with Trogs. So like Trogs was still the host at that time. So yeah, I remember like long stretches of just sitting in silence and like sometimes opening my mail or like eating an apple on the air. And
hold on, T. You guys have mentioned that before, like the long stretches of silence. Like why was that a thing, and what precipitated it? Like, dude, I mean, I feel like we would have to work overtime to even create like a millisecond of silence on this pod. How was it that you guys had so much silence?
Well, I don't think we had silence as far as like dead air. There would just be times where Trogs would get into something with Pipe, and it would either be something that I didn't have any interest in or wasn't a part of or whatever. And sometimes I would just like
this will come as a great shock to listeners that there are things that Ted just doesn't give a rat's behind about.
That's true. So I'd like walk out to the mailbox and get the mail, and it kind of became just a part of the program. But then when Trogs left, and I kind of stepped into the hosting role, I had to be a little more dialed in.
You don't have that luxury.
A lot of it had to do with Trogs loved kind of edited and formatted everything. So like Ted was talking about, you can't edit my writing stuff. Trogs loved lists, 7 of these and 9 of these, and like, how should Christians think about these? Like kind of poking at the controversies and that kind of thing. And so every episode was a structure, hey, let's do a famous pastor draft kind of thing.
Right.
And which, as you can imagine, works with Ted about 1 out of 5 times, because that's the one that struck his fancy. And the other 4, he's like, how about a Nature Valley granola bar loudly into a microphone?
Exactly.
So then once Ted took over as host, which was when you joined the show, Ronnie, it became the much more kind of free-flowing stream of consciousness, or stream of lack of consciousness, that it is now.
Yeah, that's kind of been the evolution. So I would say it started in a much more ragged place, and now it's in a much more professional radio place, because it's the 3 of us and it's seamless.
Well, boys, I remember the first time, I forget who was gone. Like, I think Trogs asked me to come in to guest host. I forget who I was replacing. I think Big T, it was you. You were just out for a week.
It might have been.
Something.
Yeah.
And so I think it was you, Pipe, and it was Trogs. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, because I don't know why it led to this circumstance, but I think he wanted me to, like, it was last minute. He said, can you do this tomorrow? I said, yeah, but I'm not going to be in front of my laptop. I'm like on the road. So I'm sitting in this parking lot at this like crazy, like outdoor mall with my phone recording. I got Pipe. I got Trogs on this thing. And I just remember, and I remember thinking, because I don't know that I had heard an ep up to that point, other than that 41 seconds from like a year prior, But I do remember thinking that I thought, man, I did think that Trogs, I mean, given like what he was aiming for, I thought he did a pretty good job at just kind of, again, that typical Trogs things where he takes something and he kind of pokes fun at it, and he very lightly and innocently kind of makes a mockery of it. And I couldn't tell you for the life of me what the topic was that day. I couldn't tell you for the life of me what the topic was last week, or what the topic was before we started this show. But I remember thinking, I mean, he kind of pulls it off as a host. I mean, he's definitely no Big T, am I right, Pipe? But I mean, I thought like what he did and how he did it, it worked in its own format.
Dude, it's funny you mention all that, because like one recollection that I have of the Trogs years, and this was more a function of, like adjuncting, teaching at different places, working crazy hours. Like I remember taping the show in parking lots, just like sitting in my car.
Yeah.
And
that was me. Yeah.
yeah, there was less kind of an emphasis on quality audio and more of an emphasis on like just getting it done. And,
yeah, it was like iPhones and earbuds. And,
it was, yeah,
you know,
totally.
and then so like you'd kind of jump on and off Wi-Fi or your cell phone connection, and I mean it was slightly better than phone quality because we were using a web app, not just calling in, but it wasn't very good. And yeah, there was no sort of quality, or I think Trogs did all the editing too until Resonate started as this fledgling business, and he worked it out with them that we would promo them and then we would get free editing for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, boys, it's incredible to think how our listeners are spoiled now with the level of audio quality and professionalism.
Embarrassment of riches.
So, I mean, that just we so dedicatedly bring to the table every week. I don't even know what to say about that.
Dude, if Trogs had like asked for a little bit of money in that initial deal with Resonate, we'd probably be rich now. I mean, given that we launched them
like
and put them on the map.
buying shares or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my goodness.
Options. By the time that company went public.
Yeah, they're like publicly traded now, NASDAQ, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, again, because of our program.
Well, yeah, because of our push.
We allowed them to go public.
Dude, if we had gotten a little back end up front.
I mean, boys, I got a little back end. My shares are paying handsomely. I don't know where you guys were at in that.
Your Resonate recording shares.
Oh, man. That's, you know.
I have two questions to follow up on the how we met thing. First, Ronnie, how in the world did you know Steven? Like he was like, I remember Ted was out and he was, you know, and he was like, oh, I know this guy named Ronnie. And to me, it was like when he said, I know this guy named Ted, I was like, do you really? Or are we just like cold calling some guy named Ronnie and saying, welcome to the show?
Dude, I don't know. I think he knew me like he knew Ted.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how he knew me. Seriously, I don't know. I don't have any recollection of that. Yeah. I remember just hearing from him. I don't know. He contacted me. I forget. There's some angle there. You know, like it's something. I forget. Cause I remember when I first talked to him and I felt like I had already talked to him. Like I had talked to him before he asked me to guest on the rant, but like, I don't even remember how that all happened. It's weird. We live in a small world. So things cross over. Like I barely remember how me and Ted connected. You know what I mean? It's been so long. So it's just like in Pipe. I mean, I think I remember how we connected, and it was through this. Obviously, like there was no connection before that. So that one's pretty straightforward. But Trogs is very convoluted.
And then we did the show so I think I did the show for like probably 3 years with Steven and Ted. Well, two and a half of those with Steven before Ted and I met in person, which was, I think we recorded an episode at this little crappy conference room at the old Lifeway office, and then went out and grabbed food and or beverages because you were in town to visit family, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I was already part of. I feel like that was when I was part of it.
You were part of the show then, but then Ronnie, you and I didn't meet in person until our first live show.
Oh yeah,
that was.
Yeah.
What was it? Together for the Rant? Was that the first one we did, or live?
Yeah, that was in Louisville when we got our pictures taken with all the like wood cutting supplies in that church.
Yeah, band saws and lumberjack gear,
which every church needs, by the way. That was cool, and I remember. So that was in the old Lifeway building, Pipe, that we met up in that dingy little conference room, and
which irony of ironies is now an Amazon operations office, or is going to be once it's done being constructed.
Interesting.
See what happened after you guys met there? Do you see what that prompted?
Magical. Yeah. We've been business catalysts ever since. You know,
making and breaking careers,
buying and selling people. You know, just the usual. All right, let's do another one. How it started, how it's going. Let's do how we all started writing. I think this is an interesting one in light of the how it started, how it's going thing, because it's going to be a little uneven, I think. Let's start, Pipe, with you. How you started writing, how you started, how it's going.
So growing up, I always sort of had a knack for writing, just in the sense of it's the part of school that came the easiest. I always enjoyed the essay tests more than the objective, multiple choice kind of stuff. It seemed easier to me. But I never had the confidence to write things for publication. Mm-hmm. I dabbled in it a little bit when I could make it very non-personal, writing something about, kind of a devotional reflection for a youth group newsletter when I was, on a junior in high school or something. And then I got to college and would submit a thing here and there to the college newspaper, but it was always sort of sarcasm, humor types of posts, relying much more on wit than on bringing in my own, kind of my own voice and personal experience.
Right.
And then I just didn't write anything for anybody other than like copywriting for work for maybe 7 or 8 years. So between like age 20 and 27. And so much of that, and this, at the risk of glossing over a lot of details, so much of that was just where I was personally and spiritually, kind of a super insecure, not real secure in my faith, and not at a good place. Like I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know what it meant to say it. I had a lot of observations about what other people said. I worked in publishing, and I spent a lot of time thinking I could probably do better than this author did. But I never tried, and I was never constructive in that. It was always just kind of being a snot from a distance. And so it was actually a lot of spiritual growth through a lot of spiritual failures that led me to kind of have the confidence to say, oh, if this is a thing that God has given me to be able to do, it's fine to do it. And I don't need to, there doesn't need to be the same level of insecurity or fear, and and there are people who will read it, so there is some benefit in it. So I just started writing on my own website in maybe 2011, something like that. Okay. And yeah, just sort of like your typical blog posts, not sort of screeds against stuff, but observations on this and thinking about this and read this book and this is my interaction with it, and just sort of working out the writing muscles, and then started getting some opportunities from other places. So, hey, would you contribute an article to this website or this magazine? And after a while, at that point, I was working 2 jobs to try to make ends meet and raise a young family. And finally, I got to the point where I could drop the second job and make enough writing through $100 here and $40 there and $30 here, and 1 or 2 regular gigs, that became kind of a second job. And then it was probably 2 or 3 years before I attempted my first book and got it picked up by Cook. And after that, I think it was after my second book was published. No, probably after my third, that I really felt really comfortable in my own skin as a writer and free to do what you said, Ted, which is I'm not doing anything for free at this point. I don't feel like I need to write to keep my name out there as much as just I'll write when the opportunity suits me.
Man, that's awesome. That's really good, Pipe. It's weird as friends, you keep like learning stuff about each other. I don't know that I'd fully heard the story of your writing career and how you got started. That's a good one. And shout out to you for moving out of the space of I'm just going to be the jaded, insecure critic, sniping at other people from afar, because I think that's where a lot of armchair writers just leave it, and they never move past that. So,
and it's so, at the risk of sounding utterly snobby, it's such derivative writing because you never have an original thought. You just wait to pounce on something.
It's insecure writing too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day. Absolutely. Baby, what about you in writing? How it started, how it's going?
Well, man, so when I was, this would have been way back. I sort of got my foot in it. I had some Christian publications that were having me write record reviews and interviewing bands and writing out interviews. So that's kind of how I got my start, just in terms of just typing things out for publications. And
so I have a question on that, man. And I don't want to step on your thing, but I'm interested in this. As a musician, Was it hard for you to write like critical reviews of other musicians?
Yeah, I mean, so you had to keep, so like everything, you had to keep it pretty, you had to keep it kind of PG in the sense that you had to be largely encouraging, and you could be, have something in there that said, hey, I think it misses here in this area a little bit. I would have loved to have heard more, if, him flesh this out a little more, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, largely you just had to be kind of encouraging, but there's kind of an art to writing that way too, where it's almost like pastoral writing in general, where you're always trying to kind of glean what's good from it, which is really weird when you think of what a review is supposed to be, which is it's supposed to contain some critique. But you always had to be softballing this stuff. So that's kind of how I just got. And I forget how I forget. There was something I did that made it so I got sort of the attention of some of these pubs that started reaching out, and I started doing more of it. And I don't remember what it was, because I was still very active making my own records and going on tour and doing all that stuff. But then I would get all this side work, doing those kinds of things to fill in the gaps. And then so that led all the way into, and again, T, I don't know how we connected somewhere online somehow. I literally don't remember how that happened, because it has been a
Cracker Barrel, baby.
Well, but we had already we had already like known each other. We'd connected online and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And so there was something there that happened with that. And then you asked me, and this is where you come into it. You asked me to write the foreword for a sort of a music-oriented book for Moody that
got killed.
That never hit the shelves. I wrote the foreword.
Moody killed it.
And that was kind of how our relationship sort of cemented a little bit, was through that process.
Yeah. Dude, that's right. I forgot that it was related to that.
Baby, what was the name of that book? Tell everybody what the name of that book was, because I don't have any recollection.
Dude, I don't have any recollection either, to be honest.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
It had some really...
Wasn't it like 365 days? It was one of those books that it took a year to write, because it was like almost like a journal on your...
Yeah, it was supposed to be a book where I listened to nothing...
Christian music or something.
Yeah, I spent like a year with Christian music, like... Yeah. Listening to Christian radio, going to shows and stuff, and I turned it in, and they were...
Well, there's no way Moody was going to publish that, because Moody, like the publisher, is bosom buddies with the radio program, and
totally.
they love the what is his name, like Travis Cottrell or whatever kind of stuff, there's just you were never going to get a book published that has snarky things to say about Christian music.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was a disaster from...
But Ted, didn't they? I mean, they had to have had an idea what you were doing before you... I mean, they did...
Dude, they did because they knew me, and they had already done like... Yeah, they had already done like 5 books with me at the time, so they knew like how I rolled. But, baby, I really want to remember the title now, because I feel like it had a really good title and a really like fresh cover idea, but doggone it, I can't remember it. I've put it out of my mind.
Like, wasn't it like a take on... like that one book, like that woman wrote about like living like a kosher Jew for a year. It was kind of a wasn't it kind of like a version of that?
And I was going to do a bunch of... I can't remember the name of that book either. Yeah, a bunch of first person experiential, and it was funny, dude. It was really, really funny, and I felt like
it was really cool. It was a really good book. Yeah.
Speaking to what Pipe said about just being in a different place spiritually, unfortunately, I was a much more cynical and less sanctified person at that time, so I'm sure that was reflected in the writing. But it wasn't just a hit piece either. I think it had some pathos.
I didn't get that sense of it at all. I thought it was really funny. It was really an accurate take of just like a guy that was kind of like that. A guy that was a little bit older, but kind of like living the life that like a lot of like college students would be living. So it kind of had that like vibe to it, kind of looking at it with more mature eye. It was actually really funny.
Yeah.
I remember being...
What year would that have been? I'm trying to figure out if it would have overlapped with my time at Moody or if it was before I got there.
Yeah, 2010, wasn't it? 2010, 2011. Yeah.
I was going to say 2010, baby.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, like give or take a year or two on either side, but
it was right in that pocket, though. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it would have been just before I got there, because I was there 2011 to 2013.
Pipe, if I said names of like who my editors and stuff were on that project, you would know them. And I would actually be interested off the air to like see what you thought of some of these people who I'm good with.
I suspect I could give you names of the people I'm 100% sure killed that project.
Oh, dude,
So-
let's do this off the air. Let's for sure do it.
All right, we'll gossip off the air.
We'll gossip off the air.
So this is what happened to me, and then we can get into your story real quick, T.
Sure.
You and me, that thing happened, it didn't happen. Then you and I somehow connected at a Cracker Barrel because we had this opportunity to start the reformatory. And then we ended up doing a co-write on a TGC article called "Where Rock Stars Go to Die," and it kind of was like one of the most read articles that year on TGC or something like that.
That's wild. Was it?
I'm all messed up about that, but it was it got a ton of attention because it was before everybody was kind of writing about that. So, I mean, you can find those articles, like they're like sugar right now, but back then it was kind of one of those things because we'd had a lot of conversations about that, and so we co-wrote the article. And then that just led into the idea for When Believers Don't Believe, which ended up being Finding God in the Dark.
Yeah. When parkourers don't parkour.
When parkourers don't parkour.
Yeah, dude. Which I think was I contend to this day, even though not a lot of people read that book, I think it was a really good book. And it's the one that, like, when I have students or people that I know who are, like, struggling with this or that, I'll sometimes grab that one and give it to them. So
I know I don't mind that book. And what's funny is that remember it came out on Bethany House when Bethany was trying to move past fiction. So we were a little guinea pigging Bethany with like a more serious like Christian living book when they were just trying to like begin their journey into that.
Man, so y'all paved the way for like Al Mohler to publish his books with them.
We totally paved the way.
We did. Mohler
he owes you residuals, man.
Absolutely.
He owes us big. Yeah.
Absolutely he does. Yeah. Well, let's get on the horn, baby, with Mohler's people post haste and get a little piece of the action.
I'm emailing Southern right now as we speak.
There you go. That's good.
We'll get them on the phone right after the program.
They will be very responsive. Just trust me. It'll be great.
Yeah, no, it won't even be a thing.
All right, boys. Real quick, how it started, how it's going with my writing, and then we got to wrap it because we've got other business to do. I've told this story in various other places, so I'll keep it short. Got hurt in college playing football, had no inkling of wanting to be a writer, thinking about being a writer, but had a very encouraging professor, also a very cute girl, my wife, say that I should give it a shot. So I ended up writing this thing. So this would have been like the year immediately after college. We lived in Lithuania, and I wrote poetry, believe it or not, which is a little embarrassing. But I got some poems published when we got back, and I remember the feeling, and you guys probably remember this, the high of like the acceptance letter. And this was back when, especially in poetry, everything was done via like old school mail. So like not even email. You would like put an envelope together with some submissions and send it out. And then like 6 months later, you'd get a letter back. And the first acceptance letter was like a huge deal. I remember that feeling awesome. So as far as how it started versus how it's going, it felt way more awesome back then. And I miss it. It was a big feeling. It was a big moment. So, kind of got that whole poetry thing out of my system, and then ended up writing this satirical sports e-zine. And it was just 3 articles, no graphics, no website, no nothing. But it went out weekly via email. It was called The Field Judge, Satire for the Discerning Sports Fan. And I wrote it with 2 buddies from college who have both gone on to do, important things. But at the time, we were just 22-year-old guys who hated our jobs. So we put this thing together, sent it out. That got picked up by ESPN, and that was kind of the bye, baby, love you. That was kind of the big break. That was my wife. I love you guys too, just in a different way. So yeah, that was sort of the big start with writing in a significant way, like for an audience. And that was really fun for a while, and it really built momentum. I was able to like parlay that into my first book deal, and then there was about a decade there where I was doing like 2.5 books a year, and just working myself to the bone, kind of beating my brains out trying to do it. And that was probably the apex, to be honest. So as far as how it started, how it's going, there was probably an apex in there around 2015, where I was getting published all the time and doing a bunch of books. And then I got the academic job here, and it's tailed off a little bit, but I would say in a good way. And I honestly don't know if it'll ever get back to where it was as far as like kind of being in demand. Like after the DeYoung books came out, there was more demand and a little bit more platform. But
or as I like to call them, the Cluck books.
Well, yeah, that's how we refer to them too. It's so funny you mentioned that. In our house, that's how we talk about those books as well. But
you mean in your house you don't say the DeYoung books?
We don't, dude. I don't allow anyone. I would wash my kids' mouths out with soap when they would refer to them as the DeYoung books as children. They were allowed to swear
because they
often
often discuss those, I'm sure, as young children.
Exactly. As they're sitting around the fire at the hearth, talking about books that they've, been aware of. But yeah, that's kind of the deal,
Mom
man.
Say DeYoung book.
Yeah, exactly. And then the bar of soap would come out, and it'd be time for a little discipline, a little tough love.
Right. Right.
You know how it works. But yeah, boys, that's the deal.
I think it's interesting listening to your story, thinking back on mine, and I didn't hear quite as much of this in Ronnie's, but I know there's probably elements. How much a job you hate inspires creativity.
Totally. Yeah. That's a big lever, and now I think we're all three probably in jobs that we like, or even love in some cases, and yeah, I know for me there's less of a desire to like escape into the writing, but still writing, still having fun with it, messing around with movie stuff. So hopefully how it's going will be better than ever. But at the same time, I don't care, if that makes sense. It's just nice to be doing it.
Ted, can you do one more bonus, how it started, how it's going? And this can be real quick, but this was a listener one. How did Ted start on social media, and then how it's going?
Yeah, well, it's not going at all, but how it started was probably how everybody else started, which is, I don't know when Facebook became a thing. When was that? Like 2005 or 6 or, I got on it, and as luck would have it, because I know we're time constrained, this is probably a way more nuanced and serious conversation in that, in a nutshell, it caused me to sin in a lot of ways that were surprising, but that were totally my fault. Right. So, the envy, the bitterness, the self aggrandizement, seeking my approval in other people, it just became a real nasty stew of some of those things that sort of culminated in like 2009, 2010, and I'm getting the years wrong, but yeah, that's when I got rid of it, and that it's been good. So now it's hard to, in a 2021 context, it's hard to escape it. Like even if you're not on it, using it, kind of stewing in it day by day, it's hard to get away from it just because so much of our life is lived there. But yeah, that's kind of the quick version. But yeah, like most things in the Christian life, it's a bit more complicated, and there's more that I could say about it. But it was something, and I'll put a fine point on it here and then wrap it. It's something that I felt like the Lord wanted me to do, walking away from it. And there have been just a couple other instances in my life where I really felt conviction / like a movement of the Spirit to do something. And one has been getting off of social media. Another has been confessing sin in some form or fashion. And the third one actually, weirdly, was quitting boxing. I just felt like I had to get out for the good of my brain and my family. So those are the kind of the 3 times where I felt like the Lord was really urging me to do something. And yeah, that's the deal, man. But good questions, boys. Good ep. This was fun, man. And I feel like it's fun to like keep learning stuff about each other at the risk of
and talk about ourselves.
Oh, totally. I mean, what a pleasure, you know? Let's be honest, always fun at the end of the day to talk about ourselves and to talk about the CSB Bible, which we encourage everyone to go out and buy. And we have done what we always do, boys, in that we've wandered to and fro throughout topics that have largely to do with us. And until next time.
The Happy Rant is brought to you by Resonate Recordings. If you go to resonaterecordings.com, you can see the full range of services they offer. So if you're considering starting a podcast, they are the ones we recommend going with. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see their prices, to connect with them and ask any questions, and to see what they can do to help you launch, edit, master, and improve your podcast. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see what they can do to help you launch and improve your podcast.